In 1978, Barry Seal appeared to be living the perfect American life. He was a commercial airline captain for Trans Airline, flying predictable routes across the United States. He had a beautiful wife named Lucy, a young daughter, and a future that looked stable and secure. From the outside, Barry was successful, respected, and financially comfortable. But inside, he was restless. Flying commercial passengers from city to city felt mechanical. Every takeoff followed procedure. Every landing followed protocol. There was no unpredictability, no challenge, no real danger. And for Barry, danger was intoxicating. He didn't just want to fly. He wanted to feel alive. One evening, after checking into a hotel during a routine trip, a quiet, bearded stranger approached him in the lobby. The man spoke calmly, but with unsettling precision. He knew about the cigars. Barry had been smuggling Cuban cigars into the country on the side. It was minor compared to large-scale crime, but if exposed, it would cost him his career instantly. His license would be revoked, his reputation destroyed. Everything he had built would collapse. The stranger introduced himself as Monty, a CIA operative. Instead of threatening arrest, Monty offered him something unexpected: a job. Barry was driven to a remote hangar and shown a sleek twin-engine reconnaissance aircraft. It wasn't designed for passengers. It was built for speed, maneuverability, and stealth. Monty explained the mission: fly into hostile Central American territory, photograph military sites and rebel installations, avoid radar detection, return without being noticed, completely classified. No paper trail, no acknowledgement, not even Lucy could know. Barry didn't hesitate. He resigned from his airline job and stepped into a covert world that felt far more suited to his personality. Flying low over jungle terrain, skimming mountains, navigating radar blind spots, operating alone, without backup. The secrecy gave him purpose. The danger gave him adrenaline. The responsibility made him feel powerful. For the first time in years, Barry felt indispensable. But the pay was modest. He was risking his life for a government salary that barely reflected the danger. Then, in 1980, everything changed. While refueling in Colombia, Barry was surrounded by armed men and escorted to meet a rising power in the drug world, Pablo Escobar. Pablo already knew who Barry was. He knew about the CIA missions. He knew about the aircraft. He knew Barry had skill. Instead of hostility, Pablo made a proposal: transport cocaine into the United States, $2,000 per kilogram. The math was overwhelming. One flight could generate more than months of CIA compensation. Barry didn't react emotionally. He analyzed it. He saw logistics. He saw margins. He saw opportunity. He agreed, but only if the operation followed his design. Landing on short jungle airstrips was reckless. Instead, Barry proposed dropping shipments over remote areas in Louisiana at precise coordinates. Retrieval teams would collect the cargo later. More efficient, less exposure, harder to trace. The first flight nearly killed him. The aircraft was overloaded, the engines strained, the runway was short, the trees rushed toward him as the plane struggled to lift. He barely cleared them, but he cleared them, and survival created confidence. From that moment on, Barry Seal lived between two worlds. He flew weapons south for the CIA, supporting anti-communist forces in Nicaragua. He flew cocaine north for the Medellín cartel. Publicly, those sides were enemies. Privately, Barry was the bridge. Monty relocated Barry and his family to Mena, Arkansas, a quiet town of barely 2,000 residents. There, Barry was given operational control of a private airport. It became the perfect hub. From Mena, weapons shipments left for Central America. On the return flights, cocaine moved north. Cash flowed into the United States. Barry expanded rapidly. He recruited skilled pilots, created backup landing strips, studied radar patterns, built layered routes to avoid interception. He wasn't just flying anymore. He was managing a network. Money flooded every aspect of his life. He bought luxury cars, renovated his home, gave baseball season tickets to most of the town, created shell companies, distributed fake payroll checks to justify income. When banks began questioning large deposits, he buried cash in his backyard. He hid stacks inside walls, closets, toolboxes, even furniture. At one point, there was so much money that storing it became a logistical challenge. For a while, Barry believed he had mastered the system. But success attracts scrutiny. The DEA began studying unusual flight activity connected to Mina. The FBI noticed abnormal banking patterns inconsistent with the town's economy. Border Patrol deployed long-range aircraft to intercept suspicious flights. During one chase, Barry landed directly on a highway, jumped out, tossed bundles of cash to nearby children, grabbed a bicycle, and vanished before federal agents arrived. It was bold, but boldness leaves footprints. Meanwhile, global politics were shifting. The Cold War influenced American foreign policy. Central America became a strategic battleground. Officially, U.S. involvement was limited. Unofficially, operations continued through covert channels. Barry was embedded in that gray zone. He transported crates labeled as equipment. He delivered shipments that would never appear on official manifests. He shook hands with men who were publicly condemned but privately useful. But cracks were forming. Weapons went missing. Rebel groups proved unreliable. Money flowed in directions that didn't match reports. The system was unstable, and unstable systems collapse. At home, another threat emerged. Lucy's younger brother, JB, discovered the hidden cash. At first, he was curious, then tempted. He began taking small amounts. Soon he was spending recklessly. Flashy cars, expensive nights, visible extravagance. JB lacked discipline. He didn't understand the scale of the operation. To him, it looked like unlimited wealth without consequences. Eventually, he was arrested. Pablo became suspicious. If JB cooperated with authorities, everything could unravel. Barry attempted damage control. He handed JB money, a passport, and plane tickets. The plan was simple: disappear quietly and start over elsewhere. But before JB could leave, his car exploded. Money scattered across the street like confetti. It was not random violence. It was a warning. Barry understood then that he was not controlling events. He was surviving them. At the same time, political oversight in Washington intensified. Congressional investigations increased. Public scrutiny rose. The Nicaragua operation began deteriorating. Monty started destroying documents tied to Barry. He was being erased. Soon, federal agencies moved in. DEA, FBI, ATF. Barry was arrested. Drug trafficking, arms smuggling, money laundering. It seemed final. But before trial began, a phone call changed everything. His handcuffs were removed. He was flown to Washington, to the White House. Inside, officials spoke calmly. They needed undeniable photographic evidence linking Pablo Escobar directly to trafficking operations. Barry was the only person positioned to get close enough. In that moment, he understood something crucial. He wasn't being protected. He was being used. Still, he accepted. He returned to Nicaragua with hidden cameras installed inside his aircraft. He met Pablo again, pretending loyalty while recording everything. The cameras captured clear evidence. The U.S. government publicly exposed Pablo Escobar. But when Barry watched the broadcast, he felt his stomach drop. His own face was visible in the photographs. He had been exposed. The government shielded itself, not him. Investigators began treating him differently. Not as an asset, but as a liability. He knew too much. He knew who authorized missions, who approved shipments, who ignored contradictions. Knowledge like that makes you dangerous. The FBI seized his assets. His hidden cash was confiscated. His home was stripped. Lucy salvaged what jewelry she could before everything was taken. Despite the scale of his crimes, Barry received a surprisingly light sentence, 1,000 hours of community service. But he understood the real threat wasn't prison. It was retaliation. In his final months, Barry changed constantly. He rotated hotels nightly, altered driving routes, avoided predictable habits, slept lightly. He began recording detailed accounts of operations, names, dates, flights. Not for fame, for insurance, but leverage doesn't stop bullets. On February 19, 1986, Barry Seal was sitting in his car outside a Salvation Army center in Louisiana, completing court-ordered service. It was an ordinary morning. A vehicle approached. An assassin stepped out. Shots were fired. Barry Seal died instantly. After his death, authorities seized his recordings. Investigations surfaced briefly in the media, then faded. But the underlying truth remained. Barry Seal was not just a smuggler, not just a pilot, not just an informant. He was evidence of how power operates behind closed doors. Governments and criminals can cooperate when interests align. But when alliances become inconvenient, someone becomes expendable. Barry believed he was navigating between two worlds. In reality, he was cargo. And when the mission ended, he was discarded.